This is a really, really, really big deal that for some reason is not being highlighted in the news, and people should, at a minimum, especially veterans, pay attention to what just happened. I'm going to play a very short clip from the Veteran Affairs Subcommittee in the House, and let's just hear exactly one, what's being asked, and more importantly, two, how the VA answers that question.
Is it the VA's position that the VA will not comply with an act of Congress based on another agency's interpretation of the law?
So the VA has always works to comply with all laws. We complied with the Brady Handgun Act when it was in fact the law.
So again, is the VA's position, because based on the statement, they could not comply with the Restoration Act, the Veterans Second Amendment Restoration Act, is it your position that you will not comply with an act of law passed by Congress?
Yes, sir. I guess based off of what you have in testimony, yes, sir.
That you would not comply?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm glad everybody hears that on the record, that the VA is going to refuse to comply with, regardless of what we actually pass here, including questions that Representative Self was just asking in view of the Chevron Act being passed.
So here is the issue, okay? The VA has absolutely nothing to do with due process. So what happens when the VA tags you in what's called the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, or NICS, N-I-C-S, when that veteran goes to purchase a firearm, the dealer sees a red flag and they say, whoa, 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 brother, you cannot buy this. You are absolutely crazy. And that's it. There is zero due process, and that's what's at stake. Now, I'm going to make an argument in favor of the VA here in a second, because I want to remain as neutral as possible, as I am just a content creator. But no due process equals really, really bad news. The VA has absolutely nothing to do with governing and deciding the rights of citizens, especially veterans. The VA's purpose is to provide health care and benefits for veterans, not take away their rights under any circumstance. You might as well combine the VA and ATF at this point, because that sounds absolutely insane. Now, from the VA's perspective, having knowledge of someone's medical history, if someone were to commit, let's just say, mass murder, and this knowledge was known, it would be all over the news. And more importantly, the people would ask, especially those affected, if this information was known about this specific veteran who committed mass murder, why wasn't something done about it? Okay, that's probably the thought process of the VA. I'm going to make an assumption there. Now, I disagree with that process personally, but I can at least understand where that comes from. Meaning, if the VA is going to tag the NICS system, there needs to be due process. And I'm all for due process, okay? I'm just not for tagging a system just because the VA feels like it without any sort of legislative authority. If a veteran who has a gambling issue and they go to the casino all the time, or they live where I'm from, which is Kentucky, and they spend all their money at the bingo hall, and they require a fiduciary, that is a lot different than being absolute crazy and on a mass murdering, killing spree. That's the VA standard for the NICS system, is basically requiring that fiduciary. There are a million examples, and that's just one. It all goes back to the VA acting way above their pay grade and not providing due process, which, by the way, isn't their job in the first place. Some would say this is a huge overreach of the VA, federal government, and there are going to be second and third order effects from this statement alone. Veterans now, which, by the way, are already reluctant to speak on mental health and what they are suffering from, are now going to be further pushed away from ever seeking the care they desperately need, and the benefits would help them, not only help them, but their family members as well. The clip just before the one I showed you talks about the studies where veterans who distrust the VA do not seek mental health care on this issue, specifically about Second Amendment rights. Keep your eye on the Veterans Second Amendment Protection Act, because that is what drove this conversation between the committee and the VA. If you get value from this channel, hit like, subscribe, do all the things. What I really want you to do is comment below what your thoughts are, okay? I want your personal thoughts. Are you in favor of the VA decision to not comply with the law that Congress passes to protect veteran rights? Or are you not in favor of the VA's decision? I want to know.